All right, it's time for today's Business Matters. First up, asset management fees and a rise in trading activity set a quarterly record for Charles Schwab. Its shares climbed after the firm reported $1.84 billion in profits for the fourth quarter, and that beat analyst estimates. The financial service company also recorded more than $5 billion in revenue, up 20% year over year. Schwab said it saw a bump in trading activity after the election as client engagement surged. The increased volume sent trading revenue up, and as a result, Schwab's asset management and administration fees hit a quarterly record of $1.5 billion. And JetBlue now accepts Venmo payments for flights in what it's called a first for airlines. JetBlue says Venmo payment options are available on the airline's website and will roll out on their mobile app in the coming months. Many airlines already accept payments using PayPal, and Venmo is owned by PayPal and is commonly used for peer-to-peer transactions and to settle group expenses. JetBlue has been mired in losses, that is, since the COVID-19 pandemic, and its efforts to purchase discount carrier Spirit Airlines were blocked, leaving it struggling to compete with larger U.S. airlines. And signing off for the last time, local meteorologists across the nation at stations owned by the Allen Media Group are saying farewell to viewers. The company announced sweeping cuts at its nearly 24 stations nationwide. Now, all of its local meteorologists are being eliminated or reassigned. Local forecasts will be replaced with pre-recorded regional reports from the Weather Channel, which Byron Allen, who owns the media group, acquired in 2018. Allen Media Group says the new format will drastically improve reporting capabilities. But one meteorologist says this would save money in the short term and take away value and credibility in the long term. The Brutalist is facing backlash over using AI in the new film. This comes after a dual writers and actors strike that shut down Hollywood in part to fight for AI protections. In an interview, the movie's editor explained that software was used to improve the actors' Hungarian dialogue and in the final scene to create architectural drawings and finished buildings. He said, "There's nothing in the film's AI use that hasn't been done before." Some online users criticized the use of AI, saying it's a disgrace not to use a visual artist and that accents are a fundamental part of an actor's craft. Also, regulators have approved a nasal spray for adults with a major depressive disorder that's difficult to treat. The Food and Drug Administration has signed off on Johnson & Johnson's Spravato spray for treatment-resistant depression. That's when at least 2 standard treatments do not improve depression symptoms. Now, this makes the spray the first ever standalone therapy approved. J&J's third quarter earnings report shows that Spravato brought in $780 million in sales, and this is during the first 9 months of this year. The company told investors at the end of the year that it expects sales to increase to between $1 billion and $5 billion annually. And moving on, the head of Bank of America is seeing positive signs for businesses with President Trump announcing pro-growth economic policies since his inauguration.
We saw in our small business surveys and stuff, the enthusiasm of small businesses strengthened largely due to the regulatory change more than anything else. The interest rate environment's not any real more favorable. Sure, rates came down a little bit. The revenue environment instantaneously doesn't change, but they basically believe that it's going to be easier to do business, and that's a good thing.
B of A CEO Brian Moynihan said that Trump's words yesterday echo the campaign and that now the Trump administration needs to get started on implementing changes. Moynihan also noted the bank's research found that tariffs up to 15% are unlikely to have a significant impact on the economy or spur inflation. And India is ready to buy if President Trump fulfills his pledge to boost U.S. oil and gas production.
If you were to ask me whether more American energy is going to come onto the market, my answer is yes. If you say there is a potent possibility of more purchase of energy between India and the US, the answer is yes.
I mean, they really have nothing. passed in Congress, it gives the president a right to make a deal or to close it. And we have 90 days to make that decision. But I could see making a deal where the U.S. gets 50% of TikTok, polices it a little bit or a lot, depends on them. There's so many different products made in China, and nobody ever complained about it. The only one they complain about is TikTok. And TikTok is largely young people. I guess I have a warm spot for TikTok that I didn't have originally.
Now, let me just mention that the law was enacted last April and upheld by the Supreme Court last week. It requires TikTok to separate from its Chinese parent company, ByteDance, or face a U.S. ban. Critics, including FBI Director Christopher Wray, warned that TikTok poses significant national security risks. Trump says the U.S. should broker a deal to own half of TikTok. He estimated it could be worth $1 trillion. He says the U.S. could police the app. Meanwhile, TikTok briefly suspended service as the original deadline passed, but resumed operations after Trump's executive order. And there may be soon picket lines at one of the nation's largest retailers. 18,000 Costco workers are preparing for a potential strike at the company's warehouses in 5 states. Members of the Teamsters Union authorized a strike unless a new deal is reached with the retailer before January 31st, which is when their contract expires. And workers are asking for better wages and better benefits as well. A strike authorization vote doesn't necessarily mean a strike will take place. They're often used by unions prior to contract extensions. Now, if the strike goes forward, it's scheduled to start February 1st, next month, and Costco officials have not commented on the matter either. Meanwhile, a federal judge today rejected Citigroup's bid to dismiss a lawsuit by New York Attorney General Letitia James. It accused Citibank of failing to reimburse customers who fall victim to online scammers. Now, a U.S. district judge in Manhattan said that Citigroup must face James's lawsuit. The suit claims that the bank violated a federal law regarding unauthorized wire transfers, among other things. And the judge dismissed some claims in her lawsuit. James sued Citibank in January, saying that its security systems have failed to investigate red flags, like, for example, unrecognized devices or changes perhaps in usernames and passwords, as well as phishing. On top of that, she said they enabled scammers to steal millions of dollars from customers. Now, just a heads up, if you're planning a trip to Europe this year, there are new visa requirements for travelers. So listen up, as of January 8th, Americans traveling for less than 6 months to or through the United Kingdom will need what's known as an electronic travel authorization. This is basically a digital registration to get into the UK. All U.S. citizens traveling, even children under the age of 18, they need to apply through the UK government website or through the app on their website, and you're going to need to upload a photo of your passport as well as a photo of yourself. And on top of that, you have to answer various questions about your trip. It might take around 20 minutes to complete. There's also a fee as well. It costs £10, which is roughly $12.25, depending on the exchange rate. It takes about 3 days to be approved, but UK officials warn it could take longer than that. Later this year, the European Union will also be rolling out new travel forms. When those go into effect, it will cost about $7.70. Meanwhile, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission said it was forming a new cryptocurrency task force to develop a regulatory framework for crypto assets. The SEC said in a statement the task force aims to make comprehensive changes to how the agency approaches digital assets. That's including providing regulatory clarity and making what it described as the judicious use of enforcement. The task force will also help lawmakers that seek to draft crypto-related legislation. It would aid their efforts to coordinate with other federal bodies and state and foreign agencies as well.